This is the Detroit Sports Podcast Network.
Do you play FanDuel and feel like you aren't creating consistent money-making lineups? Go over to the DFS Doctors on Twitter at the DFS Doctors and DM them with promo code Detroit Sports to get a free trial for their analytically formulated 70% lifetime profit rate NFL and NBA lineups. The whole purpose of playing daily fantasy sports is to get out there and compete and give yourself a chance to win. So go over to the DFS Doctors. Let them help you. They have analysts on staff that look at the best optimal lineup that you can put out there to win money. So why not take advantage? At the DFS Doctors, promo code Detroit Sports.
CBD is a game changer sweeping the nation. This hemp extract is the natural way to elevate your mood, eliminate aches and pains, reduce anxiety, and keep you sleeping all night long. It can even cut your workout recovery time in half. Get in the game today with 20% off all orders of CBD and lavender products from Lavender Lane, a lavender farm located right here in Milan, Michigan. Just go to lavenderlanemi.com today and enter coupon code Detroit for 20% off your entire order. Guys, look, these amazing products are infused with calming lavender to maximize their effectiveness, meaning your CBD items only take minutes to take effect, which is way quicker than those pills you were about to swallow. On top of it, they are perfect for men and women. Lavender Lane has lab-tested CBD creams, tinctures, and roll-ons that are perfect for any situation, even if you're on the go. Put your health back in your hands by heading over to lavenderlanemi.com and entering coupon code Detroit for 20% off your entire order of CBD and lavender products. What do you have to lose? Your satisfaction is guaranteed or your money back. So if you need lavender gifts for your loved ones or just looking for the natural way to ease your discomfort with CBD, go to lavenderlanemi.com and use coupon code Detroit to unlock these miraculous benefits of CBD and lavender. That's lavenderlanemi.com. And remember, use coupon code DETROIT for 20% off your CBD and lavender products from Michigan's own Lavender Lane. Welcome in, everybody, to another edition of the DocNJock Wrestling Podcast. This is episode 124. I'm your host, Adam the Jock Strozinski. On today's show, it's jam-packed, coronavirus or not. Jam-packed show today. We're going to tell you about what Daniel Bryan's future may hold, as well as when the Hall of Fame inductions for WWE may take place, because it doesn't appear that they're going to be taking place at WrestleMania, and what is planned for WrestleMania. It's going to be a big deal. As well as, of course, we're going to cover the biggest topics and trends in wrestling. Professional wrestling has been absolutely crazy. The coronavirus has impacted it. And, of course, we're going to react to it. And reacting to it with me, as always, he's the one. He's the only. He farts glitter. He's my cousin, the Doc, John Macaron. What's up, cuz?
To be talking about professional wrestling, cuz we got so much to talk about. AEW debuted 2 new stars, former WWE athletes appeared on AEW. Cuz we're now watching professional wrestling with no fans. We get a chance to review how both companies, WWE and AEW, have addressed the whole coronavirus. Both companies are taking different approaches. One I think we like, one in which we don't. Major news in regards to WrestleMania. And, bro, even though the world has kind of really come to a halt in the sports world, I'm thankful that professional wrestling has been there airing live events and giving us some content that we can kind of dive into. And for me, I know on your Practice Squad podcast, you were talking with Brendan Riley about kind of what you guys have been watching and things like that. For me, the network has been really good. Bret Hart did a sit-down with Stone Cold Steve Austin, and they were breaking down a little bit more of the Montreal Screwjob. Really, the Ruthless Aggression series has been awesome to relive the height of the time frame of 2001 to 2010. it's been really good. So professional wrestling for me has been a great escape and really provides us the opportunity to debate, to really pay attention to what we're seeing, and to really continue to kind of go along with a sense of normalcy. So I'm thankful for professional wrestling and for doing podcasts because it has provided me with a sense of normalcy in terms of coming to the office, recording with you, listening to how you and Brendan get down and break things down. So I'm thankful for professional wrestling, and what an awesome week. I think you and I, before the show, were talking. Finally, we had a chance, I think, with things a little bit slow, to sit down and watch a show and to be like surprised and to mark out. And there's so few moments nowadays that surprise you. We kind of had a sense that the two individuals on AEW were going to show up, but not when. And it happened organically, and it was awesome. I can't wait to talk about it. What a week for wrestling, bro.
Dude, wrestling has been, like you said, it's essentially been that constant. You have no sports. Every league is shut down.
No live sports.
But wrestling is still there. They're still doing their live shows. And the thing is, some are doing it better than others. Raw and SmackDown, to me, have been so awkward and feels so forced and feels so shoehorned when they perform these shows at the Performance Center. It doesn't feel natural. It feels awkward. And something I kind of took away from the AEW show the other night, AEW does a really good job of basically blacking out everything around the ring. Whereas WWE...
The bright blue makes it...
Yeah. It shows that the entire crowd is not there. And it makes it feel really, really empty. On top of it, the Performance Center itself is massive.
It's nice, huh, to air it there, yeah.
It's absolutely beautiful. But all that being said, it doesn't feel intimate, right? Generally, wrestling feels intimate. Even though there's thousands of screaming fans in an arena, right? Those fans help insulate it and keep the action focused right around the ring. When WWE is doing these in the Performance Center, you have all that open space, and you kind of have the acoustics in the arena are not as good.
Not ideal. Exactly.
Yeah, it feels so weird, and it's strange to watch these wrestling shows take place like this. It
feels like training.
It does.
But you have the masters doing it. You have the likes of Edge. Mm-hmm. You got the likes of The Fiend and John Cena, AJ Styles, The Undertaker. You got the masters, so it comes off good. I like it, but I want to get your sense, too, about an opinion that was voiced by WWE Hall of Famer and Mark Henry. He said that, you know what? Guess what this kind of now could potentially spawn into? Because of the fact now that WWE has to go to LCA and Madison Square Garden and the Staples Center and pay massive amounts of money to rent out the building, they could consider saving millions of dollars in the future and just operate locally from the Performance Center.
So
not permanently.
Kind of like what NXT does.
Exactly. Because it would save them millions of dollars. If you downscale it a little bit, maybe that could be, quote unquote, the off season where you shut things down in like a month of December or January or the month after WrestleMania a little bit, and you localize for a little bit. You save millions of dollars from the 8 or 9 rental facilities that you got to go to in order to put on the show. You save a couple bucks. So we could be seeing more of this, not without fans, because it is, for me, something that is not to the point where I could say, okay, you know, I want to see shows produced like this. It's not right, because seeing Stone Cold come out with no fan interaction, him doing that was weird.
Can we talk about his promo?
Yeah.
It was so awkward.
It was weird.
Like, there's no other word I can really use to describe it. It was awkward, and it was uncomfortable
because he acted like there were fans in the stands, and it was not done right. It was not what we thought.
On top of it, that was probably one of Stone Cold's worst promos in a long time.
Yeah.
Like, he was flubbing lines. Yeah.
It was panned.
He was reading off this cue card. It was not good. That's not what you do with Stone Cold.
No.
Stone Cold does his own thing. That's the whole point. That's what Stone Cold was or is.
SmackDown was okay, and it was highly rated, and many people walked away going, wow, Triple H, in his element, being this loose character, is a great announcer. And that's what he is. He's a legend. Obviously, he can adapt, but unfortunately, he's not an active performer. So he overshadows everybody else. And I think what upset a lot of people on both shows, SmackDown and Raw, is hardcore fans are already watching the Elimination Chamber. We have already I saw that match. I lived it once. I didn't want to see it again.
You didn't need to see the replay.
You lost me. I clicked. So I was gone and I didn't come back. I saw that. And then
You
obviously
didn't need to see a re-airing of the Royal Rumble. You've already seen that.
that was an hour and 25 minutes more of airtime, and you lost me again.
Yeah.
So I saw the first segment, and then I came back to see The Undertaker and AJ Styles. So for me, I just said, okay, Raw and SmackDown failed to grab my attention. I didn't like it. I loved the Edge promo. I loved some of the intense promos, but it was great. It was good to see The Fiend kind of saying in a way that I'm going to destroy you, John Cena, but he's a legend. I expect that. He never, goes out there and has a bad promo. But in essence, you could have done something really creative, think outside the box, just have a couple more of those Miz TVs, a couple more of those behind the scenes segments. Just, you could have just a round table. You don't have to put on a wrestling show per se. Maybe you have one match that's dedicated that you're going to do at the end of the night to draw people, one dedicated match, and then you can just do storylines developed through segments and backstage interviews and roundtables. You could have even similarly, you could have had right then and there, the boss man. Stone Cold Steve Austin's going to be there 316 day. You put a table right there in the middle of the ring. He's right across from Vince, and he's going right at him. Vince, you got this new competition out there. What do you think? We got WrestleMania out there.
See, that would have been more engaging.
You could just had an interview.
Like, if
you could have done a podcast right then and there.
If you humanize the wrestlers, right, and you take them essentially off their superhero platforms that we put them on, and make them seem like real people, you tend to fall in love with those people more, right?
Yeah.
Like Becky Lynch is one of those people who we have fallen in love with because it's not so much because of her man character. It's because she got knocked out by Nia Jax and she rebounded and she rubbed blood all over her face and she had this epic moment where she was in the crowd with the fans. It almost humanized her, but at the same time it elevated her, right? And if you've ever watched any of the WWE behind the scenes stuff, like she's got a legit awesome story. And her story building to that moment where she got knocked out was awesome. It was, I've been overlooked. You guys have essentially given the rub to Charlotte and to Sasha, and you have forgotten about me. And it was her turning the tables, and it got you invested. There was a human element to it, right? The whole reason everybody's on Roman Reigns' side. Remember, Roman Reigns was booed every time he stepped foot in a ring. Roman Reigns goes away with leukemia, comes back and lets everybody know, hey, I'm fighting leukemia, and I beat it again, and I'm here. Ever since then, Roman Reigns gets way more cheers than he gets boos. It's all about humanizing these guys and making that connection with the fans. You can do that, like you said, either with a podcast or sitting down and just having a Q&A or a round table, or doing different storylines, showing different things that kind of take place backstage. I know guys like Jim Cornette absolutely hate that, right? When you kind of lift the veil of what goes on behind the scenes. You can do that, though, in a way that brings the fans in, lets them see what's going on, and gives them a better understanding of what's taking place, and highlight your wrestler to help them make that connection with everybody else. There are ways to do these things, which I think leads me to this next point. I think if WWE, so if they took the Raw, the SmackDown, and NXT, and during this time period, went away from actually doing live shows to doing pre-tape shows at the Performance Center, I think what you would get would be a much better product. I think you could tweak things in post-production, or you could adjust camera angles to kind of block out some of the empty arena. I think you could mess around a little bit with the sound so it doesn't sound so hollow. There are certain things that you could do, I think, in post-production if they did pre-tape shows that would make it a much more enjoyable experience for wrestling fans all around the world. Because what we're getting right now, it's uncomfortable to watch. And like you said, they're airing the Elimination Chamber matches. They're airing the Royal Rumble matches. You're basically filling time because you don't have anything really going on. And you as the viewer are walking away from it, or you're like, cool, I'll check in later because I've already seen this. I don't need to see it again. I don't want to see it again. You've got to become more creative. And I think doing pre-tape shows allows you that flexibility to be able to adjust or put different spins on things. And you know better than I do, WWE does one thing extremely, extremely well. And they do great packaged and produced video packages. It's the one thing that they do better than just about anybody in the business. And you can do that if you do pre-tape shows.
Now, in looking at one of the angles, obviously Edge, Randy Orton is now, we understand the stipulation, it's going to be a last man standing. Is that the stipulation that's best for this matchup? I think, you know what? I like it. It's going to be a brawl, but I think there's one match that's probably worth it, a little bit more violent than a last man standing. Steel cage, baby. I think this match would have been destined for a steel cage. You lock them in, they're throwing each other into the cage. I know they're old, so if you're going to have a last man standing, that indicates, okay, we're going to go into the crowd, we're going to be a little bit more violent, we're going to be a little bit more physical. I think having it contained within the confines of a cage, you can just kind of have different angles of how they're going to throw each other into it. Yeah. And maybe you have it capped off with Randy Orton trying some crazy, shit where he's hanging off the top and does like a splash or a reverse 360, does something crazy that you can do. Or maybe Edge. I don't know if he's still limber enough to try it, but both of these guys are going to go crazy in the last man standing. I just think that it's okay. It's a B+ stipulation, but A+ where this one needed to go, cage.
So I like the last man standing match. I don't generally like the way that it's shown on TV.
Yeah, it's tough because they're all over the place. It's messy and
The cameramen have to essentially run behind you. You got to get weird setup angles. I don't usually like how it's choreographed or filmed. I love a steel cage match, but my caveat for the steel cage match. Do you remember the old blue steel cage? Like with the big holes in it, so you could actually see things. Not the one with the fencing all the way around it, because I feel like that is too distracting. You don't get a good view. I want the old school steel, like the steel metal cage that has the big bars and the big holes in it. And I want those camera angles. And I don't necessarily want the blue cage. I want a black one. Give me a black cage, right? But it's got to be just like the blue cage was. That's my caveat. I think a steel cage would be fantastic. I really do. I think it'd be great. I want to transition into what we witnessed on AEW the other night, because it has now led us to compare and contrast the Raw performance, the SmackDown performance, to what AEW put on. And I think we're both in agreement here. AEW's performance was so much fun this week. It was so good. And the way that they broadcasted everything, it started a little bit weird, started a little bit herky-jerky. You had Cody Rhodes in the ring, basically bringing down Kenny Omega, bringing down Matt Jackson, bringing down Hangman Page, and cutting a promo to essentially nobody. The arena was empty. And again, it feels awkward. The best way you can describe it is awkward. But they did such a good job focusing and zooming in on what's going on in the ring. Not so much what's going on the outside of the ring. However, I did love that they put the rest of the wrestlers on the outside of the ring watching and cheering. I thought that was a great touch. It added some fun levity to what was actually going on. Also, Chris Jericho at the very end of the night cutting the promo where he's like, "There's nobody in this damn arena." I thought that was great. I thought it was fantastic. I thought the way AEW presented an empty arena show was so much better than what Monday Night Raw did and what SmackDown did. And it was just subtle. It was just a few subtle things, right? So essentially everything is dark around the ring. So you're not seeing all the empty seats. The camera angles are right up on the ring. So you're not seeing what's kind of taking place in the stands. They do live shots where they cut to what's going on in the stands, which was great. But that was more to highlight the wrestlers that were there. I thought AEW's performance on Wednesday night was heads and tails above what WWE has done. Am I off base here at all?
Heck no. And, what AEW and WWE do to augment their programming is they do a great job with Corey Graves and Tony Schiavone. They got their own independent podcasts. And it's great. In recent weeks, you've had Triple H, you've had the likes of Tony Khan, and you've had really higher ups kind of talking about the way in which things are produced and things like that, and talking candidly about how things are kind of organized and how things are going. And what AEW gives you that feel is like, okay, Tony Khan was a fan. So he understands the concept of production. He understands from the NFL the idea of marketing. And these guys that are the VPs that are working this thing and the behind-the-scenes crew, the production value at AEW is better. They're using their talent better, and the 2 hours gives them the window to highlight what they need to highlight in a more condensed fashion, whereas WWE is just a little bit, it's too, I guess the best way to put it is it's too produced. It's too way overproduced, and you're not seeing enough breakout stars. You're not seeing enough of what you would need to hook you. You know what I mean? It's like, okay, you got the same angles, you got things that are interesting, but you don't have that it factor. You don't got really too many surprises. You don't got too many right now in WWE, things that make you go, wow, if I missed it, I can't believe I missed it. If you missed AEW Dynamite, you missed out on some wrestling history.
You missed some awesomeness.
It was amazing to see Brodie Lee. It was amazing to see the new Matt Hardy debut there and the way in which they did it. It was awesome, especially with how they opened it with, obviously Kenny Omega's promo was okay. It wasn't like lights out, but it was good enough. And then you kind of are exploring the idea of what's going on with the Elite, and it was good overall. I could have done without a little bit of Sammy Guevara singing. That was a little awkward.
That was a little bit weird.
But see.
But again, you highlighted a guy
exactly
who is in a group who could totally be overshadowed by the ringleader of that group in Chris Jericho.
Yes.
But you gave him a spotlight during Chris Jericho's entrance, which helped accentuate and kind of gave him some screen time that otherwise he wouldn't have got. So again, I was watching this with a non-wrestling fan or a non-traditional wrestling fan. They ended up watching his performance with the mic, and they're like, "Oh, that's that one guy from the other pay-per-view the other day." And they're like, "That's the guy from the pay-per-view, right?" And I was like, "Yeah." So they got it, right? Like it was a way to highlight a guy and give a guy some airtime where they could make that connection that you normally wouldn't make that connection. And like you said, AEW incorporated two massive introductions of new characters. So Luke Harper leaves WWE, goes to AEW. He is now his indie name, which was Brodie Lee. Brodie Lee is the Exalted One. Brodie Lee is the leader of the Dark Order. I thought this was a fantastic debut. I didn't expect Brodie Lee to be the leader of the Dark Order. I thought it was going to be Matt Hardy. Deep down, I figured this all made sense for Matt Hardy to do this. But Brodie Lee is now going to lead the Dark Order. I thought it was a fantastic promo. You gave a guy a microphone and you said, "Hey, go cut whatever you want to cut." And he cut a stirring promo that hooked you. It got you involved. You were like, "Whoa!" You were sitting on the edge of your seat. I thought it was great. I have a small critique, but I will give you my critique after you tell me what you thought of it, because I thought it was fantastic.
Obviously, everyone loved the diss on Vince McMahon, where he said, "I'm not going to let another old man not believe in me," and it was great. I think that Brodie Lee and Christopher Daniels is the perfect intro feud. It's just absolutely perfect. I think that it was a surprise because many people thought that Matt Hardy was going to be the leader of the Dark Order, and so it's really good in that a lot of the things that we thought were going to happen did not happen, and you have now Jake Roberts going to be working with Lance Archer from New Japan, and when Archer went to AEW, I'm like, okay, I think I've heard of him before. Yes, I went back and I watched some of his old matches at New Japan. He was at the Performance Center. His time ran out. It didn't really go anywhere. Goes over to New Japan, and wow, he really built himself into a primetime player. Now he's going to be working with a legit Jake Roberts. Now you got Brodie Lee coming in, and it's just something that's really new and fresh. And it's just, and what's different is that when the new guys come in from WWE, they're displaying kind of new characters in an AEW way. And it's different and it's fresh. And so you and I were talking because some of the critiques that kind of filtered in online were, well, is AEW kind of falling into some pitfalls like the old WCW did, where a lot of the emphasis is placed on old WCW stars? If you recall, when Nitro kicked off, you got Lex Luger, you started getting an influx of Macho Man, Hulk Hogan, and you started seeing, well, a lot of the old WWE guys kind of got highlighted a lot more, and they overshadowed. But this is different in that a lot of the guys in AEW that are coming over just weren't utilized properly. They had hot gimmicks that kind of faded away, and now you're going to have another team, a tag team coming. You know what's happening. In about 2 months, spoiler alert, the Revival is going to show up at AEW. So what's different is, yes, the old WWE guys are being there, but they're not at the top. You know what I mean? In terms of, I still believe that Cody Rhodes is the top guy and has a lot of the top feuds. So that's number one. Absolutely. And everyone else, even you could consider the world champion, is number two. Number one is Cody Rhodes. He's the hottest guy, most over, and he's an AEW guy. And he's a guy that, look, yes, he came from WWE, but it's not the same guy. He wasn't Cody Rhodes coming in. He was a guy that was wearing freaking stars on his face and being treated like a tool.
Yep.
So for me, I think it's different. It's not the same. It's not WWE guys taking over.
See, another difference is when guys went to WCW, Hulk Hogan went as Hulk Hogan.
Exactly.
Macho Man went as Macho Man. Lex Luger went as Lex Luger. Like you said, these guys are playing different characters.
Exactly.
They're
enhanced and better.
They're totally different. They're not the same. Ric Flair was in WCW forever, went to WWE, went as Ric Flair, went back to WCW as Ric Flair. It's one of those things where the guys in WCW went as the guys from WWE. Like Big Boss Man was Big Boss Man. It's how it was.
We need AEW there because of the fact that, yes, it can be a place where older stars go, but they don't go as the same package. They get rebranded into something that we want to see.
Something newer, better, fresher.
And I think every time we've seen it, we've been popping, we've been happy because we want to see the deleted Matt Hardy in AEW.
Yep.
Whatever we got in WWE was like a condensed version and just faded away.
Yeah, and
it's going to work.
At the very, very end of AEW, we did get broken Matt Hardy. It is now official. He's going to be joining the Elite, filling in for Nick Jackson, who is out with injury. He's going to be subbing in for him and working with the Elite as Blood and Guts takes place, where it's going to be the Elite versus the Inner Circle. Dude, I marked out so hard when I seen him. I started screaming, delete, delete, delete at my TV.
Right away when you saw the drone, you knew.
Yeah.
You're like,
instantly,
oh, shit.
Instantly. The moment you heard it.
You're like, when you saw the drone, you're like, no.
Yeah.
I thought he was going to come out. Now, someone said something that was interesting, too, in that, do you think it was the best way to do it with no crowd? Because don't you think a Matt Hardy and a Brodie Lee deserve the pop that, having fans maybe, but the problem is you're not going to get fans for like 6 weeks.
Right.
So you can't wait, or maybe you do it.
Yeah.
How do you do it?
So do you wait on them and do you pause all those storylines?
No, you don't.
I don't know if you do that. I was thinking the same thing, right? I was like, man, because
it would have been great.
It would have been great. It would have been fantastic.
But it didn't happen.
Dude, I love that Matt Hardy's there. I love that he gets to go take his broken gimmick. I love that he fought so hard for something he built. And WWE tried to take it from him, and Impact tried to take it from him, and
so fast. It's like what? It was March 1st, and boom, it's like March 19th, he's there. So that was good. So at least WWE didn't make him wait 90 days, and it was good, and they honored him and let him do that. And that's good in these contracts not to have that wait clause. For WWE, I don't know why they wouldn't, because if another 3 months would have passed, I think that it would have maybe slowed down the gimmick. But 19 days later, we're right into it. It's Matt Hardy.
I'm so pumped.
It's good. It's going to be good.
So me and Putty were texting.
Yeah.
Me, you and Putty were texting. I was texting with you and I was texting with him.
What's the best angle you think for him
just
after
so
this?
Pumped. I don't know, because I really thought it was going to be the Dark Order. I was really set on he's going to be the leader.
Face probably, or a popular one.
Yep.
So someone that's maybe running roughshod, maybe. I'm trying to think, is there a middle of the road guy? If you want to go crazy, it'd be kind of cool to see Hardy Omega. Something crazy, or if you want to do it, Hardy, and if you want to kind of do crazy promos, Hardy MJF.
MJF would be good.
Yeah.
So I know when he was in WWE, we talked about a couple weeks ago that he wanted to work with some lesser talent. He wanted to work with guys who
on the up and up.
Yeah, who weren't necessarily quite getting over yet, and really wanted to highlight them by bringing them in and having his own little, essentially, cult, his own little Dark Order. So I'm not sure what he's going to do. I'm not sure how this is going to work, but for sure I'm interested. So you have to remember, Matt Hardy has had epic matches with both Matt and Nick Jackson. He has had epic matches with both of the Lucha Brothers. He has had outstanding matches with a lot of different guys that have come over from Impact and a lot of different guys from New Japan. So I guess really and truly, it's going to be fun to see how this plays out. I have no idea what their thought process is for him going forward, but dude, it could be really, really good, and I hope it is, because he's going to be in charge of his own creative. I'm assuming.
And what's good with AEW, because they're going to be around for the next 5 years? It provides a home for wrestlers 42 to 50.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Because guys that maybe were not utilized properly in WWE that are going to age out because there's a potential,
Well, the thing is too, right? So
a 46-year-old, 47-year-old AJ Styles in 3 years could show up there.
AEW,
if the contract was 3 years.
AEW runs a lighter schedule than WWE.
Yes.
WWE does a ton of house shows. They do a ton of broadcasts. I mean, they've got 3 different shows that they're airing at all times. Now you filter in the house shows, plus you filter in all of the pay-per-views. These guys are working 300 plus days a year. AEW works much, much less. Generally, right around 100 days a year is where I think AEW kind of is. So, like you said, for older guys, this is a place where you can go and kind of preserve your body. Even younger guys, this is a place where you can go and preserve your body so you can get that longevity and extend your career, which is fantastic. That's the problem with a lot of wrestlers is they just get beat up. They get beat up and they want to heal. In news and notes, I'm going to tell you what Daniel Bryan's looking for. So, I'm going to foreshadow. Maybe we see Daniel Bryan in AEW at some point.
Ooh, I can't wait. Let's get right to it. Hit me with this week's professional wrestling news and notes.
All right, so WrestleMania 36 will take place over 2 nights, April 5th and April 6th, from the Performance Center with no crowd due to the coronavirus. Now, Rob Gronkowski will host WrestleMania, and it's going to help set the stage for a future match. According to Dave Meltzer of the Wrestling Observer, Gronk's first match could happen at SummerSlam, which is scheduled to take place in Boston in August. So WrestleMania will now air Saturday and Sunday night, 2-night event in the Performance Center. Essentially, what that's doing is that is bumping your Hall of Fame induction. Now, according to Georgia Smith, daughter of the 2020 inductee Davey Boy Smith, she tweeted that the promotion is looking at the weekend of the SummerSlam, on August 23rd as the new tentative window for the Hall of Fame induction. So a lot of moving things around because of the coronavirus. Now, Jushin Thunder Liger will be introduced into the WWE Hall of Fame as part of the loaded 2020 class. WWE announced the move Monday, putting him alongside Batista, NWO members Hulk Hogan, Scott Hall, Kevin Nash, Sean Waltman, the Bella Twins, JBL, and the aforementioned British Bulldog. Now, Vice released a new trailer and a synopsis for a 2-hour, 2-part season 2 premiere for the popular Dark Side of the Ring series. I'm not sure if you've ever watched that. It's fantastic. It is so good. This episode will focus on the Chris Benoit tragedy. So AEW star Chris Jericho spoke with Justin Barrasso of Sports Illustrated to promote the episode on the Benoit family tragedy from 2007 and explained his involvement with the project. He said, "I didn't want to hear how I was glorifying a murderer." Jericho said, "I don't want to hear that I'm ignoring this murder. I wanted to talk specifically about his life and times, his intensity, and his success within the ring. We're not glorifying a murderer. We're telling the full story. It was done properly. It was done for the right reasons, and we were able to portray the full story, emphasizing the tragedy that much further." Chavo Guerrero Jr. helped produce the Benoit episode, and Jericho said Chavo was the one who got him involved. He explained how he then got Chris's other son, David Benoit. If you remember, we talked about David Benoit working with Chris Jericho in AEW. So you may be seeing David Benoit sooner than later in AEW, as well as Nancy Benoit's sister, Sandra, to participate. Also, Dean Malenko and his wife took part in the production of this documentary. Jericho went on to say, Chavo Guerrero helped produce it, and he's the reason I decided to do it. His mindset was, if we don't do this properly, it's going to get done anyways. Let's do it for the right reasons and do it the right way. I think he was spot on with that. Chavo was involved, which got me involved, and David Benoit and Nancy's sister were involved. Then I was able to get Dean and Dean's wife and Vicky Guerrero involved. Suddenly it became the noble project instead of a hack job, which is what the media tends to do in situations with someone they don't know. We knew the person behind this, not just the murderer. This episode will also tell the story of Benoit and the WWE Hall of Famer Eddie Guerrero, looking at how Guerrero's death impacted Chris Benoit. On an edition of the Bella Twins podcast. I didn't even know they had a podcast, but apparently they do.
Everyone's got a podcast.
Daniel Bryan said that he is looking for a limited time schedule and may be done as a full-time wrestler. Remember, he basically recovered from his concussions and his head and neck injuries. So it only makes sense. I mean, the guy is a dad at this point. He's a married man, loves his wife, who's one of the Bella twins. And to me, it would make sense for him to go to a more part-time schedule, whether it be with WWE or AEW. So it'd be interesting.
Oh, man, good podcast. I was hyped. Yeah, professional wrestling gives us an opportunity to check in with things and things like that. We're going to, delve deeper into the whole WrestleMania idea. I think in the coming weeks we got to decide, because I just feel like postponement would have been way better.
Yeah.
Airing it, I know the biggest reason why they can't is the storylines, but you can, if you're creative enough, you can actually heighten all of the storylines with another month.
Yeah.
Could you imagine AJ Styles and The Undertaker with another month, back and forth, kind of interfering with each other's matches, just the creative way those two could get at it? Edge, it's just sometimes the fast-paced nature of the WWE doesn't have to be that way. It doesn't have to be a 1,000-mile-an-hour speeding train month to month to month. You can actually just take your 6-month plan and just slow it down.
Break it up
a little bit. It doesn't have to be that way. I think the fans are clamoring for something different, a little bit more elevated. Could you imagine John Cena's Funhouse? He could recreate it. He could do some more things. He could actually, start to mess around a little bit. Maybe you got Bo Dallas. You got John Cena kind of showing up to the Performance Center with Bo Dallas for some reason. If IRS is still alive, you start showing up with IRS and Bo Dallas and Curtis Axel. You could start having maybe Eric Rowan showing up with John Cena for a month or so, and just starting to introduce
there's different things you can do.
You could do so much,
and they've got such a big roster. There's so many things you can do.
They're just doing it all straight laced, and it's not right. It's not good enough.
And like you said, right? There's no timetable on any of this, right?
Exactly.
The only timetable that's imposed is what Vince wants. So spread it out. These guys don't have to be on TV every week. Give other guys more room to grow and show their talents, right? You can do long builds with everybody working every other week. We don't need to see Becky Lynch and Shayna Baszler every week. We don't need to see The Undertaker, AJ Styles every week. We don't need to see The Fiend, John Cena every week. You can see them every other week. We can follow along. I know everybody's got ADD now, but we can still follow along. You do a good enough job of cramming video packages down our throat to recap everything. So just do that. It'll be okay. I promise it'll be fine. I don't know, man. I agree with you. I think it should have been postponed, but we're going to get 2 days worth of it.
I can't wait to react to Gronk. It's going to be interesting to see how he does
it.
Dude,
he should be good.
It'll be good.
He's fun.
Follow Adam on Twitter at AdamRSTROZ. Follow the network at Detroit Podcast. Let us know if you've agreed or disagreed with anything that you've heard on this week's podcast by heading on over to the Flick Chat application, where we can create our own forums talking about Detroit sports, professional wrestling. All you got to do is, via your mobile device, download the Flick Chat application, and within moments, you're in Detroit sports headquarters, and you can create your own forum. You can debate all the wrestling fans in town, and you can really run and be part of a great sports community. Thanks, everybody. You've just downloaded and listened to the latest edition of the Doc and Jock Wrestling Podcast. Drops every Friday, everywhere your favorite podcasts are housed. Thank you so much for supporting us. Look forward to breaking it all down again next week. Thanks, everybody.